Vanguard. It's a card game where you can become a leader and fight your way to victory.
Imagine it. Imagination becomes your strength.
Hey, what's up, card fighters? My name's Dev from DevsUtopia, and in this Messiah deck profile, we're going to be running 3 grade 4s, 6 grade 3s, 10 grade 2s, and 14 grade 1s. To start off our list, we're going to be running 3 copies of Volko. Volko turns our Force deck into an Accel deck and is really a key card for Alter Ego Messiah because it allows us to swing multiple times and even give power to our Vanguard instead of other rear guards if we don't even have any other rear guards because they're all locked. So it's a really important card for this deck, and it's usually our kill card for most cases when I was proxying this deck against my friends. To start off our grade 3 lineup, we're going to be running 4 copies of Alter Ego Messiah. Now remember, for Alter Ego's first skill, to lock up to 2 cards from the drop zone, they have to be different names. You can't just lock 2 Volkos or 2 Gasters. You need to make sure that they're 2 different cards. Last but not least, for our grade 3 lineup, we're going to be running 2 copies of Harmonix Messiah. Harmonix is mainly a kill card, but Harmonix really does provide more utility to this deck compared to the main order that was also released. The idea of being able to draw for all of the locked cards on your field and just unlocking your field, you got a lot of cards that lock themselves. So like that's an easy, like at minimum, like that's easy +2 to your hand. And Harmonix Messiah can just search out anything. So if you're having a hard time getting your pieces, you can just search for a Volko, you can search for a Gaster, and etc. etc. The main thing I want you all to keep in mind is that Alter Ego by itself does not draw. That's why Harmonix is in here. Harmonix draws with its skill at the end of battle. And a lot of the other supporting rear guards, they draw. But Alter Ego by itself can't get the job done. And if you don't have your supporting rear guards, it's really easy to brick in this deck. To start off our grade 2 lineup, we're going to be running 4 copies of Counterkill Strike Gaster. Gaster allows us to draw when we need it most, and it's our preferred grade 2 Vanguard because at the end of the battle, just counterblast, lock a card, and draw a card. You can have potentially lock Volko early game and then have a Volko ready to swing at your opponent. Preferably have it in the rear guard circle. Usually when you're going against, other people, hopefully they don't have a retire deck or a bind deck. And, it's really important to be able to get that early game hand because you really want to be able to have a lot of more options within your drop zone for Alter Ego Messiah. Next, we're going to be running 3 copies of Lady Fencer of Matter Transmission. Thanks to the fact that all 3 of our grade 3s in the deck are Messiah, it'll be able to swing for 15k, and as long as you put a Force 2 marker on your rear guard circle, that actually means something and makes your opponent waste their hand, which is extremely good because we're going to at least be able to swing 5 times each turn as long as we're on Alter Ego, or even as long as we're on Harmonix if we have a grade 3 in Soul. A self-locker is always necessary for this deck to function. Last but not least, for our grade 2 lineup, we're going to be running 3 copies of Blast Monk of Thundering Foot. Spot removal isn't as important in Alter Ego Messiah. It's mainly just how many attacks you can do per turn and wasting your opponent's hand. Although Blast Monk does soul charge, which is more important than just spot removal in my opinion. It doesn't hurt to get rid of some units that are just getting on your nerves or disrupt your opponent as much as possible, but it's not necessary to have this card at 4. To start off our grade 1 lineup, we're going to be running 4 copies of Lady Battler of White Dwarf, our generic grade 3 searcher for Link Joker. Thanks to Blast Monk of Thundering Foot, we can easily refill the cost to make sure that this is a 13k booster. And as long as we don't have to bind every single turn, we just need to make sure that we bind 1 card face down. So that's an easy requirement. And it's really important to ride Alter Ego first. So having a grade 3 searcher is really, really helpful. Next, we're going to be running 3 copies of Calderon Wing. Not only is it a self-locker, it's a countercharger. We use a lot of counterblasts in this deck, thanks to Gaster, Burst Monk, and even Harmonix Messiah. So having this option to both lock and countercharge is extremely important. But you need to make sure that you're able to bind some of your opponent's rear guard so you can soul charge in order to keep paying the cost, because you really don't want to be so blasting away all of your grade 3s. Next, we're going to be running 3 copies of Manipulator of the Void, and Manipulator of the Void as well as Lady Battler of White Dwarf are both really good starting vanguards. Grade 1 turn, unless I'm going second, I would prefer to go Manipulator of the Void. It won't hurt. And on our grade 2 turn, when you hopefully ride Gaster, you can have Manipulator of the Void behind the Vanguard circle, and then hopefully lock 2 cards that turn and draw 2. Next, we're going to be running 2 copies of Bending Solid Hit Vanaman. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not completely sure. He is the when unlocked, draw a card, and that's really helpful, especially since Harmonics can specifically find it out. But you got to be careful because you can't use the skill more than once per turn. It has the text similar to the main, where it can only be used by a card with the same card name once a turn. So don't just lock a lot of Vanamons and expect a +4 at all. It's really a 2 of only because of that. If it wasn't that restriction, of course you would try to run it at 4 because it's a free plus. But yeah, you would preferably, use Alter Ego skill, get Vanamon that way, or even use Harmonics to get. Last but not least, we're going to be running 2 copies of Black Star of Increased Bellrunner. Hey, Dev from the future here. Turns out Bellrunner has an errata. You still run this card at 2, but instead of it getting +5 every time a card is unlocked, it instead gets power every time one of your cards is locked. When you activate Alter Ego skill, it goes off twice because a locked card is placed, and it also goes off after vocal attacks. So a +15 boost is really welcome, especially behind our Vanguard, because we want to make sure that Force 2 is on our rear guards because we're going to be multi-swinging as much as possible throughout the game. And by the way, when it comes to trigger lineup, it is personal preference. Honestly, Alter Ego does not draw a lot by itself, so I think that it would be really good to run Draw Sentinels compared to only Critical Sentinels, or just going 2 and 2 is still a good idea as well. Now, some personal gripes I have with this deck is that when you brick hard. You need to get your pieces, you need to be able to draw. Thus why Manipulator of Void is at 3 and Gaster is at 4. Like, sometimes multi-attacks aren't worth it if you don't have cards in your hand. And another reason why I even added Harmonics Messiah. Harmonics Messiah, yes, is a kill card, but it also allows you to survive the next turn if you're able to draw at least 3 cards as well. Thanks to Alter Ego Messiah, don't be afraid to guard with grade 1s and grade 2s. It comes in handy to just stockpile triggers in your hand, especially thanks to the fact that you can just call them back whenever you want, thanks to Alter Ego Messiah. And again, like I mentioned a little bit briefly, this deck is mainly Force 2. I have not tried it with Force 1 at all, but multi-swings are a lot more deadly when it can do 2 damage instead of 1. I'm pretty sure if you just use Force 1, your numbers already get big. You already get numbers with Alter Ego because every unlocked unit gets +10. So just to reiterate, Force 2 seems like the best way to go. You don't really need bigger numbers thanks to Force 1. And a multi-attacking deck like this is more scary. It's scarier when you have the idea of taking 2 damage and taking too much damage early game. Standard V-Series Messiah forces you to think, and Alter Ego is no different. You need to make sure that you're at least plussing in some way, shape, or form. You need to make sure that you can look at your drop zone and be like, okay, I can call X, Y, and Z and benefit this way or that way. It's not a no-brain deck in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. Now, you need to be careful when you're trying to guard rear guards because they're going to attack Vocal, they're going to attack Gaster. You might want to just let them be retired. The concern comes from when they are bound or when they're retired by skills and everything. That's when it becomes more of a, okay, what do I call and when do I call it? But yeah, don't try to overguard or nothing from your hand when it comes to protecting your rear guards because Alter Ego can just get them back in drop zone. It's not the end of the world if your opponent just gets a lot of triggers or gets a lot of power on one rear guard and says swinging at Volko. Not really going to hinder you at all. Some people run Destiny Dealer instead of Manipulator of the Void. Honestly, I like Manipulator of the Void because it's not a blind lock. Manipulator of the Void, yes, you're like filtering your hand in a sense, but Destiny Dealer is kind of high rolly for me. That's why I didn't really care for the first iteration of Messiahs. It was really high roll, what's on top of my deck, and I was unlucky enough to always lock triggers. So you can understand my frustration with Destiny Dealer sometimes. Yes, it's a good starting Vanguard, but I don't believe it's really worth putting into Alter Ego Messiah. Alter Ego Messiah is a more controlled lock, while regular harmonics, like set one harmonics, is just blind high roll. But like always, guys, this is just a template. What would you do to make the deck better? Comment down in the comment section if you did get any Silver Dust Blaze packs or boxes or anything. I would love to see your pulls. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I read comments, I swear. And yeah, I hope you guys have a nice day. Peace.